It should be a refuah shlema for Betzal Yehuda ben Chana Henya. Should have a complete recovery miraculously.
Amen.
And we should have the ultimate miracle, the coming of Mashiach already, right now, tonight, the first night of Rosh Chodesh Adar immediately. L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, so this sikh is really an excerpt from a Fabrengen from Tafshin Memtes. It was Shabbos Parshas Shekalim. It was also right before the month of Adar. And the sikh is going to focus on the combination of both things together. The idea of the mitzvah of Machatzis Hashekel, the half a shekel that was given both in the wilderness, in the desert, and also the half a shekel that was always given during the times of the Beis HaMikdash to contribute for the karbonos, for the offerings that were brought in the Beis HaMikdash, the communal offerings. In other words, if I brought a private offering, that came from my own pocket, but then there was offerings that the Beis HaMikdash made every single day. They had a Tamid Shel Shachar, Tamid Shel Abayim, there was Musaf Karbonos on Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos, and so on. These communal offerings, that came from the half a shekel. And on the first day of the month of Adar, Rosh Chodesh Adar, the Bezdin used to announce and send out messengers to announce to everybody to prepare to have the half a shekel for collection, because they used to collect it during the month, and then by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, a month later, was when they started using the funds from the new collection towards the communal offerings that were brought from that month of Nisan and on. We also know another topic, that as soon as the month of Adar enters, the Chazal say that as soon as the month of Adar begins, we have to increase in joy. So the Rebbe in this Fabrengen wants to know the connection, the association between them. What is it, if they both come out on the same time, everything is by divine providence, everything is by Hashgacha Pratis, there must be a link between these two things that seem to be completely separate. So first he's going to bring a link that's like a simple link based on a certain medrash. But then he's going to go a lot deeper in the messages of each one of these. So he says, B'negeil or Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, the Rebbe in that year, when he said the Sikha, there was two Adars. So he's using the example of Adar Sheni, but the same thing applies this year when there's only one Adar. Matzinu Shnei Inyanim, we find two things concerning Rosh Chodesh Adar. Aleph, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. When Adar enters, we have to increase in joy. We don't wait till Purim, but as soon as Adar enters, in other words, tonight is Rosh Chodesh, we have to already increase in joy. Beis, another thing we find on the first of Adar, Be'echad Ba'adar Mashmiim al Ashkolim, on the first of Adar, Bezdin used to let know throughout Eretz Yisrael, everybody should prepare a half a shekel coin to be able to contribute. We need to understand the connection between these two seemingly different things. First, we have to preface what the Gemara says. It's brought down the Gemara Golov. It's well known before the one that created the world that Haman in the future will tell Achashverosh, and it says in the Megillah, I will pay you so many shkalim for the permission to be able to kill out all the Jews. So Haman was going to offer a buyout to Achashverosh to buy out the Jewish people to be able to kill them based on giving Achashverosh a whole bunch of shkalim. Lefichach higdim shekleim lishkala. Therefore Hashem made that the shekels of the Yidden should precede the shekels of Haman. How is that? That's why we learned in the Mishnah, on the first of Adar, we already proclaim, Bezdin would announce about the donation of a half a shekel. So Purim took place, or the actual decree was supposed to be on the 13th of Adar. Haman had his thought to destroy the Jewish people. But on Rosh Chodesh Adar, they were already announcing about the shkolim they would give to the Beis HaMikdash, and because of that, that would already precede and undo the negative decree that Haman wanted to do with his shkolim, that the shekel that the Yidden gave would precede that and preclude that. Shalpiza moving our kesher, Vashaych is the Purim l'shkolim, but this is understood the connection. Shenesinas hashkolim, Yevbechinas hagdamas refuah hagdama lanes the Purim. There's an expression the Chazal say that Hashem precedes the cure before the illness. He prepares the cure, the healing before the illness. The same thing in this case, Hashem prepared the cure, which is the Jewish people giving and getting ready to give a half a shekel before the attack of Haman would take place, so that this would be the cure against his attack. Since all matters in Torah are very exact, makes sense. It's not just in the result. The way it comes out from the Gemara, the connection is only in the result. Because we gave a half a shekel before Purim would come around, so on Purim we were saved. On Purim we were protected by the half a shekel we gave 2 weeks earlier. So the Rebbe says the connection really must run deeper. The very giving of the half a shekel, that this is on a certain date, has to do with Purim. Why was the shkolim given? It was given for the communal offerings that they offered in the Beis HaMikdash. Like I mentioned before, why do we have to start announcing about the half a shekel on the 1st of Adar? Because they had to be ready for the 1st of Nisan, the next month. So the Yidden should bring their shekels on time. So therefore, they could derive and take the donation of what was used for the special chamber where they used to pay for the karbanos. It should be ready. If they're going to wait for the last minute and start collecting it on the 29th of Adar, you're not going to have enough time to have it all ready over there on the 1st of Nisan. So therefore, a month beforehand, they already started announcing about this, so everybody would have it ready. And for this very reason, also nowadays, we also commemorate this the Shabbos that's right preceding, closest to the 1st of Adar, or this year where Shabbos is the 1st of Adar. So we read, and we take out an extra Sefer Torah, and we read Parshas Shekalim from that extra Sefer Torah. By the way, this week, if we would read out 3 Sefer Torahs, because we read the Parsha of the week, we read Rosh Chodesh reading, and we read Parshas Shekalim. Whether we had 3 Sefer Torahs or not, we still will make these 3 readings.
Was this the first time that everyone was supposed to give a half a shekel?
No. The first time was in the wilderness, when Moshe Rabbeinu counted the entire Jewish people. We're going to have it in a few weeks in Parshas Kisisa. Also, we're going to read about it, that piece in the Torah reading, in that additional Torah reading of Parshas Shekalim.
The second time.
So, not the second time. So, this happened, first of all, in the wilderness, when they had to count the Jewish people. Then when the Beis HaMikdash was built, or perhaps prior to that also, when there was still the Mishkan in Eretz Yisrael, they had to collect funds for all the offerings that had to be brought. So that was an ongoing thing that they always had to collect this half a shekel.
Once a year?
Once a year they collected a half a shekel.
And it was always the week of the
it was always the first of Adar.
Okay. Right.
So the Rebbe goes on to say after the brackets, the Rebbe says everything is exact. It's not just a logistical issue. Since on the 1st of Nisan we need to bring karbanos from the new donations, so therefore you have to do it a month beforehand. But rather also because the giving of the shekel, the giving of the half a shekel, in its inner meaning, has to do with the month of Adar specifically, with the month in which the miracle of Purim took place. Not just as a preventative measure, but whatever the inner meaning of giving a half a shekel, it shares a common denominator of the story of Purim, of the miracle of Purim. Therefore, based on this, we need to explain what is that common denominator between them of the first of Adar being the time when we proclaim about the Shekalim, and also the beginning of Adar is when we start increasing in Simcha because of Purim. Base. Nisbar b'makom acher, Machatzis Hashekel roimez al yiskashrus v'yisachtus shal neshama, cheluk al kamam al mamsh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The half a shekel, the Rebbe said, we explained in other places, indicates the bond and the unity and the oneness of a neshama with Hashem. As we say right away at the beginning of Tanya, Perek Beis, that the neshama is a part of Hashem above. It's a piece of that. Just like when we say something is a half of something else, that means really, without the half, there is no whole. So when we say a neshama is a chelik elokah, it's a piece of it, just like a shekel, that we are a half a shekel to the other half of shekel of Hashem. Hainu. שהנשמה היא בדוגמס מחצס השקל, ורק על ידי איסקשרוס ויסחדוס מהקדוש ברוך הוא. המחצס השנייה כביכול נעשה שקל הקודש. How do you have a whole shekel when you have the Jewish people and Hashem together? So the message of a half a shekel indicates our bond with Hashem. Now, what does this bond engender? When we have a powerful bond with Hashem, that causes a Jew to have certain built-in reactions to a challenge to his Yiddishkeit. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya in Perek Yud Ches and in Perek Yud Tes, that a Jew, by his very essence, will give up their lives if their very Judaism is challenged. If they are forced to either choose between life or accepting idol worship, they will give up their life. Why is that? Because a Yid has this essential bond with God that he cannot tear himself away from Hashem. So that's what he says. This is the self-sacrifice that results from the very point of Jewishness which in every Jew. This Pintel Yid, as they call it in Yiddish, this very core of Jewishness that's by every Jewish person, there's no difference between the greatest tzaddik or the least observant person. Every person has this deep down. The difference is in the externals. This person may learn more Torah, this person may learn less Torah, this person may do more mitzvahs, this person may do less mitzvahs. But in the core Jewish essence, there's no difference between one Jew and another. Therefore, the half a shekel donation also had no difference between one and another. With the Machatzis Hashekel, the Torah says that the mitzvah of giving a half a shekel makes no difference what one's financial situation is. Every person is supposed to give exactly a half a shekel. If you can afford more, you cannot give more. And if you cannot yet afford it, you have to do whatever you can to put the funds together and to be able to give it. Because when we're dealing about the core Yiddishkeit, that every Jew is the same. This means that Jewish unity, the similarity and the oneness of the Jewish people is expressed in the half a shekel, because we are touching such a part of ourselves that there's no distinction between me and any other Jew. Mesirus Nefesh, the self-sacrifice that's a result of the Pintel Yid, what's called the essential Jewish nature of every Jew equally. Along with this, sometimes this essential core of Yiddishkeit is something that does not manifest in our what's called internal soul powers. It's only something very transcendent and comes up in case of emergency. But the Machatzis Hashekel indicates that we are actually manifesting this. We are actually giving monetarily, we are expressing that core similarity that we have with every Jew. It permeates even a person's money. Machatzis Hashekel kipshute, literally a half a shekel coin. So it's touching the most external part of the person, his money. Sometimes money can be divisive. In this case, in the case of Machatzis Hashekel, it becomes a channel and a means to reveal and to express the unity of every single Jew. The Rebbe goes on to explain, V'yumtek Yoiserus will be even more geschmack. According to what the Chazal say on the Pasuk, Zeh Yitnu. The Chazal are puzzled by the expression Zeh Yitnu. This they shall give. Very often, if not always, when Rashi comes across in Chumash the word Zeh, where there's no real need to say it, he'll explain that it's something you could point at. For example, the children at the sea said, Zeh Keli Vanveu, this is my God, because Hashem, they recognize the God that saved them in Mitzrayim. The same thing it says by the half a shekel, Zeh Yitnu. This they shall give. What's this about? Hashem was pointing out something to Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says, Her Eloi Kemin Matbeya Shalosh. It says that Hashem showed Moshe something that looked like a fiery coin. What's the message of Hashem showing Moshe Rabbeinu a fiery coin? To indicate that even though it's just money, which money is, like we said before, very external, but being that it was a vehicle for expressing that inner core commitment of a Jew with Hashem, that inner unity of the Jew with all other Jews, so it became a fiery coin, a coin permeated with the fire of holiness. As opposed to when it comes to permitted matters, over there one should reserve and hold back their fire from your encampments, meaning passion, heat, fire has to be reserved for divine service. When it comes to being involved in worldly matters, a person should do it, but they should do it dispassionately, without the fire, without the passion. Another Jew, that you have to be passionate about. About God, you have to be passionate. About some other permitted things, you do it because you got to do it. You got to make a living, but don't be passionate about it. Ad kedei kach, to such a degree is this coin permeated with the fire of holiness. Even the physical coin that was shown to Moshe Rabbeinu became a coin of fire. That's how far and that's how powerful this holiness permeated the physical. So that's the message, that this core essential part of the Yid needs to manifest itself outward, that even the money became inflamed with holiness. In addition to this, as we said before, the half a shekel was how we had the communal offerings. What is this hint? What is the message behind that? That the purpose of money is to offer things for Hashem. In a broad sense, that means Hainu shadavar hagashish makrivim al gabe hamizbeach yuchlol v'yisachid ima'eshel amayla. What happens when we put the physical animal on the mizbeach? A fire came down from heaven and consumed the animal. Meaning that whatever we're giving now becomes elevated and ascends above and becomes part of Hashem's fiery holiness. And not only that, but by extension, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that through my offering one animal or one item from the vegetation that elevates all the animals and all the vegetation and all the inanimate things that from that species I'm offering on the Mizbeach. What does it mean close? The word carbon is from the word closeness. Till it becomes completely one with Hashem. So again, the message is that this inner core Yiddishkeit permeates the money, and now the money is being used as an instrument to elevate the entire world. Now that we don't have an actual carbon, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, what is in its place these days? Avodas HaTefillah, the avodah of davening. Tefillahs connected midim tiknum. We know that the tefillahs were established corresponding to the carbon tamid. There was a morning tamid, that's why we daven shachris in the morning. There was an afternoon tamid, that's why we daven mincha. After that, we used to bring the different parts of the animal that weren't burnt, so that's ma'ariv. Les pulchana ki pulchan der chemusa, the Zohar says there's no service like the service of love, which is what the davening is about. Our expressing our love for Hashem, v'haftas Hashem elokecha, like it says in Kriyas Shema. Sha'adam makriv es atzmei v'chelke ba'olam la'kadosh baruch hu. He himself and his part of the world he's offering up to Hashem, like we said before. He's giving his money, and from that the world is becoming elevated. Adam ki yakriv mikem carbon l'Hashem. When you offer a carbon, it's from you. The person himself is offering himself up to Hashem. How is he offering himself up to Hashem? By having a flaming, fiery love for Hashem. There's a constant fire that has to be kindled on the Mizbeach, which the Mizbeach in the person, we say all parts of the Beis HaMikdash have a corresponding level within the person. The Mizbeach, the altar in the Beis HaMikdash, that's our heart. So just like it says about the Mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, there had to be a fire always kindled over there. The same thing, our heart has to always have this fiery love for Hashem. How is that? Again, when Jews become united, even in such an external thing like money, so then that will bring us to a state of this powerful love for Hashem. How does the unity of Jews express? Through giving tzedakah, Machatzis Hashekel, half a shekel. And how are we giving it? It's a fiery coin. It's filled with the fire of holiness. Now, based on all that we just now explained about the half a shekel, he's going to tie this up and bring this back to the subject of Purim, the connection of why in the beginning of Adar we had proclaimed and announced about the Shekalim, the half a shekel, and the beginning of Adar is when we increase with the joy that's related to Purim. Now it's understood the connection. In Yom Shel Purim hu kimu v'kiblu haYehudim. What does that mean? Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim. So the Chazal explain that the double expression, they established and accepted. Kimu mashe kiblu kvar b'matan Torah. The Jewish people, kimu means also fulfilled what they already accepted at the giving of the Torah. In other words, Purim, it's explained, is like a culmination of our commitment that we committed ourselves to Hashem during the giving of the Torah. That ultimate commitment expressed itself by Purim. Because by Purim was the first time that the entire Jewish people were threatened with annihilation. And if they would have hid their Jewishness and they would have converted to some other religion, they would have been able to avoid being killed. Still and all, they stood by it, and this is like almost an entire year. The Alter Rebbe points out that they stood by, holding on to their commitment to Hashem. So their commitment that began in Matan Torah, which was only with words, they actually fulfilled in action when it came to Purim. That's what it means. Kimu mashakiblu kvar. Kimu Matan Torah haya chelu lasis. By Matan Torah it was they began this process of commitment to Hashem. The Ikar Kabbalah, and the main acceptance, the main showing of their complete devotion, the Kibul HaYehudim Shekel is they accepted what they began to do then by the time of Matan Torah. Haisa Purim, this took place on Purim. How was that? Mesirus Nefesh al Kiyum Torah mitzvahs, through their self-sacrifice for fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. What did we say before? The very core of a Jew will not give up its connection to Hashem. That core component of a Jew came to the fore during Purim. So what the half a shekel represents is that core commitment to Hashem. When did we witness that core commitment to Hashem that was also equal all over? Like we said, the half a shekel is equal by every Jew. We saw it by the miracle of Purim, where every single Jew, without fail, had committed and accepted and were willing to give up their lives rather than to, heaven forbid, surrender their Yiddishkeit. Just like immediately after the giving of the Torah, which means when they received the second luchas on the morrow of Yom Kippur, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu was told, or he told over the Jewish people, the command to build a Mishkan. Remember, Mishkan has to do with the Karbanos, also has to do with half a shekel. Keinu bepurim b'chodesh Adar, shebe'echad ba'adar mashmiim al ashkalim. On the first day of Adar, that is when we proclaim and we announce about the shekel, the half a shekel. She'oz maschila achana l'truma chadasha, because on the first of Adar begins the preparation for the new donation, meaning for the new offerings that will begin a month later on the first of Nisan. That from that new donations we're going to begin to offer on the first of Nisan, the day when the Mishkan was raised up actually in the Midbar. Even though they were commanded to build a Mishkan, they were commanded right after Yom Kippur. But it took from Tishrei, from the day after Yom Kippur, to actually the first of Nisan for the Mishkan to go into actual use. And there's all different types of explanations when it was actually finished and when there was the training and so on. But whatever the reasons were, even though they were commanded the day after Yom Kippur, when did it actually go into use? The first of Nisan. Just like the half a shekel that's going for the karbanos, for the communal offerings, when did that actually go into use? When was that actually spent? It was spent on the karbanos, starting from the first of Nisan. With the Gemasa b'chol shana v'shana. Similarly, every single year, shenasa chidush b'chlolos hamishkan v'hamikdash adei hakravos hakarbanos. Every year on the first of Nisan, it becomes renewed, the general Mishkan and the Mikdash, because you're bringing, in a way, like new karbanos from the new donations, from the new money. And we know the karbanos is ikrei shel Beis HaMikdash. The primary function of the Beis HaMikdash, even though there was many different things that went on over there, they kindled the menorah, there was a lechem aponim, there was the aron that contained in it, the luchos, the ark, and so on. The core main function of the Beis HaMikdash, the Rambam says, Bayis LaHashem muchan liyis makrivim b'karbanos. A home for Hashem, ready to offer in it karbanos. Mitrum chadasha, from a totally new offering of money, indicating it's like a whole new Beis HaMikdash all over again. Similar to the new Beis HaMikdash, the new Mishkan that was put into operation on the first of Nisan when the Jews were in the wilderness. And just like we said before, that before you could have the offering on the Mizbeach, and before we could have davening, our own personal offering to Hashem, we need to unite with other Jews, which is the Machatzis Hashekel, the unity of all Jews giving the same thing and having the same commitment. The same thing over here, the preparation both for the giving of the Torah and the idea of Purim is also about unity. Just like it says, by Matan Torah it says that when the Jewish people came to Har Sinai on the first day of the month of Sivan, So they camped over there, facing the mountain. But it doesn't say they camped, it says Vayichan, not Vayachanu. He camped. So Rashi right away explains, taken from Chazal, that the way how they made camp was like one man with one heart. Meaning, the preparation for the Torah had to be unity. Not just the preparation for the Torah had to be unity, but also for the work of the Mishkan. It says, towards the end of Chumash Shmos, it says over there that Moshe gathered the Jewish people and told them all about the building of the Mishkan. It doesn't say, by other mitzvahs, it doesn't say the word that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered. There was many, many times that Moshe Rabbeinu had to address the Jewish people and telling them different mitzvahs. Whether it was about Pesach, whether it was about Shabbos, whether it was the month, it doesn't say the term Vayakil. All of a sudden here, when it came to telling the Jewish people about building the Mishkan, it says Vayakil Moshe, to indicate that they were making a unity. Before you could build a Mishkan, there has to be a kol echad, has to be a united congregation. And also, the Adla Achtas Shechodra and Isgalas Gam B'Mavin, Nidus HaMishkan, until such a unity that permeated and was revealed also in the money that was donated for the Mishkan, meaning that everyone gave the half a shekel equally, the rich not more and the poor not less. So just like unity was what enabled the Mishkan and the Karbonis, in a similar vein, Kach Purim, Shekiblu Mashechel Las Matan Torah. We said Purim was a conclusion, an end, an acceptance of what they accepted, what they started by Matan Torah. Nemar v'kibel lashon yachid. It says v'kibel haYehudim asar shechelu lasis. It should have said v'kiblu haYehudim asar shechelu lasis. Why does it say v'kibel? Just like it says Vayichan, it doesn't say Vayachanu. V'kibel is in singular. And who accomplished this? Who was the one that brought this about? V'nasai de Mordechai. This was something that occurred through Mordechai. He was the one that caused this to happen. Sheshakal k'Moshe b'doiroi. The Chazal say that Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. Al derech vayakel Moshe. So just like Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people as an introduction, as a creation for the building of the Mishkan, the same thing, Mordechai created a unity amongst the Yidden to be able to bring about the miracle of Purim. Like it says that Esther told Mordechai, Lech k'noises kol HaYudim. Go and gather, bring them all together, all the Yidden. Why? Mesirus Nefesh, to awaken and to inspire them, their unity that comes out of belief in Hashem and their self-sacrifice. Until this unity that permeated and became revealed also in physical matters, skip the parentheses to the last page, both in party and joy, when there is simcha causes to break down barriers between people. When people are celebrating together, when people are joyous, so then that causes simcha party together, it breaks down all the barriers. Also sending food gifts and giving gifts to the poor. We see also unity, also in monetary matters. So we see the inner message of the Machatzis Hashekel and the inner message of Purim are identical. They're both about unity and the core commitment of every Yid, not just that the Machatzis Hashekel prepared for the miracle of Purim, but at the core, they're the very same commitment to Hashem and the very same unity between all Jews. L'chaim.